think that it's a function of the economic activity that drives investment in infrastructure that's going to take that development in a certain structure. I mean, historically, one would have thought that a lot of the routes that were going into Africa, for example, in the early 20th century from the coast in Mombasa into the interior, into Kampala, were largely about moving large numbers of people and goods in, but more importantly, out of the country itself. And that's tended to be the model of development that a lot of African countries experienced during the 20th century.
And the current pace of infrastructure development in the cities looks behind, many are saying, the population rush that we're seeing in the urban cities. So what does this sort of portend for African cities? How soon is this so-called bomb likely to go off?
It's on us now. I think if you spend any time in Africa and visiting African cities, you can see how that bomb manifests itself today. By 2050, we estimate that about 50% of the population of Africa will be residing in the cities. That's a huge shift of population and of economic activities into the cities. And the ability of the city's infrastructure to be able to keep up with that is going to be severely taxed, whether it's in road networks. If you spend any time in cities like Nairobi, that you will witness that very heavily. If you spent any time in South Africa or Ghana recently, you will have witnessed the need for load shedding and the intermittency of electricity and power, water and sewage. The infrastructure that will underpin that is needed urgently, but also it's about the social fabric of the cities and the ability of city authorities, municipal authorities, to be able to provide good quality housing, education, healthcare for this population that is moving into the cities in so many places in Africa.
And the report actually says overall top-ranked city, Cairo, followed then by Tunis and then Johannesburg. But there seems to be a bit of a discrepancy between these top three cities. Why is that?
The rankings are interesting. I mean, the overall performance of cities was very tightly linked with their longevity and the where they've been around. So understandably, the North African cities, Cairo, Tunis, Algiers, Casablanca, performed very well. Johannesburg performed very well as well. Since its founding in 1886, it always has had a very strong municipal culture and investment in its education systems, the university, the light rail network that it sort of set up at the beginning of the 20th century. So these are high-performing cities. I guess where you see a little bit of a step down in the performance of a city like Johannesburg against some of the others is around issues to do with security and road safety. So we looked at about 29 different indicators that drove the responses, and Johannesburg did perform particularly poorly in three sort of mark-out areas. One was around crime, one was around road safety, and the other one was what they call the Gini efficiency, which is around the relative distribution of economic wealth, which is a challenge for Johannesburg, probably almost uniquely as a world city. It's one of the highest disparities between wealthy and poor that's experienced anywhere in the world.
And I wonder then, would that deter perhaps foreign investors, despite the fact that it's the third top-ranked city?
I think one of the things that we would advocate is you have to go and have a look. You have to spend time on the ground. You have to understand the local situation. You have to have local partners who you can work with and you can trust. Not specifically around Johannesburg, but one of the things that we factor into this report is the idea that there could be large shocks that are pent up in the system of working in developing countries, and the Arab Spring is the most obvious example that has disrupted development in North Africa, notwithstanding that those cities still stand at the top of this Africa ranking.
And power and electricity, one of the biggest constraints in most of the region. Should foreign investors be encouraged to pour money into this area? I mean, can we see the governments trying to create some sort of incentive for foreign investors to tap into this sector?
Yeah, they should, and they are. I think that the whole question of Power Africa, which is the American initiative that the President Obama has got behind, and something called Sustainable Energy for All, which is the European Union equivalent of it, it's received a lot of attention and a lot of interest. When you look at Africa, I think it's something like about 30% of the population has access to power and electricity at home. When I lived in Nairobi, the figure was about 17%, and in many other countries it's lower than that. And on top of that, energy access is a question of intermittency and variability of supply. So, as I referred to, the load shedding that's going on at the moment in South Africa and Ghana. So it's a huge area that requires great investment. Some of that investment is coming through foreign direct investment, but the thing that the governments can provide more than anything else is two things. One is the political stability and security. That historically has been a huge disruptor of investment in the energy sector. And the other one's policy certainty. People need to know that their power purchase agreements will be honoured, that they will be done in an efficient fashion, and that when they set off to do a deal, that they can achieve closure on that deal with some degree of certainty.
Tim, thank you very much for joining us.